I'm that girl who is once again reluctant to fully share what her teams are prompting me to say. So I'll brace myself, and I suggest you do the same as we discuss something that is potentially, once again, going to push people to stop and think. And sometimes when we are forced to stop and think about certain things, we will have a natural reaction to the information. And so welcome, welcome, welcome. And they want me to discuss, they have been very chatty, about what it is to have the human ego. And so we all have it. It's truly the definition of our personalities. And so while we may like to have lazy assumptions on certain people to say they have a big ego or a small ego, in true, if we had to truly define them, they would have big egos in some aspects, some topics, some subject matters, and maybe smaller egos in other ways. So, it's a fascinating thing. It's been studied many times. And we've even done a session in Conversations with Heaven on Earth about the ego, where I think we called in Carl Jung, was it? And then we discussed Sigmund Freud, and be able to understand their interpretations of it and what their perspective is, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, it's all interesting. It's part and parcel of our life contract and journey here to have an ego, to have a personality which defines us. And sometimes, our world and our perceptions definitely shape it. If you remember back into that session, they just sort of discussed it as it's easier to think of it as an organ. And so some people have inflated parts of organs, and some people have deflated parts of organs. And ultimately, the whole purpose and goal of 3D Lives is to be able to balance the ego. And so it was really interesting. I'd never considered any of that before until I listened back to that session. And so, once again, these sessions are always educational, and the information knowledge is very intriguing. And often the subconsciouses are constantly telling me to remind you, listen back to those sessions, listen back, trust your teams, ask your teams, please, can I be guided to the most appropriate session that you need me to listen to today? And with your ego and with your open-mindedness to trust your teams are going to guide you to the most appropriate session for whatever it is. It may be one statement in that hour-long session that is the key for you to be able to expand your mind and your concepts and your the necessary things to be guided into the most appropriate. So those sessions are there always. You're always welcome to listen to those sessions. And you will know when you listen back to older sessions that you've already listened to once before. Because you've grown, you now get to have you now get to be able to listen to it in a higher approach, a different approach, a more richer approach. You'll be able to hear things you didn't quite hear before. Because when we start learning about the information about the shift, for example, it's so big. It's a massive, big detail. It's a massive, big concept. And so lots of people who I've met who are really proud of their spirituality, really proud of them knowing everything that there is. And then when we start having conversations about moving forward, that's when they get completely phasey on the details and they're not quite sure what's going to happen. And so when we start openly discussing my opinions and thoughts of what I've experienced through hundreds of quantum sessions, that's when they start having big knee-jerk reactions. They're very open to having sessions with me, which is fantastic. And then when they get the information that there is a shift, and when they get the information that the shift is not here on this planet, that is when they need to start processing it. And often they will go into a massive shock, massively triggered, because their egos are dented because they assumed that they knew everything. They've been doing spirituality for so long. They're really, really confident in this field. And then when they get presented new information, it kind of triggers them. They're very proud of how long they've been awoke for, and that is fantastic, but it doesn't really just because we've been awake for a certain period doesn't mean that that is the qualifications of our knowledge and information. So I have found incredibly amazing gifts to humanity, people who have just recently woken up and they feel more advanced, more in alignment than those people who have been working in this industry for decades. And so it's not a judgment, it's an observation of actual facts and mindsets and statements and the way that they live their lives. And so I can respect everyone's journey. Absolutely, I can, but I want to be able to support those people who are newly awoken because they are fully open and absorbing all the information without having the battling of belief systems. So if you've believed that the new earth is here for all this time, you really have to do the inner work and relearn the bigger perspectives. And sometimes the ego refuses to allow growth. Sometimes the ego only wants to accept one thing and shut out everything else. That's safe, that's comfortable, it's here. I get to have my house, I get to have my kids here, I get to have my body here. I'm not open to anything else. And that is totally understandable. We can all appreciate and understand that. But for those people who have missions to be able to empower others, support others, and be of service, that is not enough information for them to feel satisfied. They want to know the utter truth. And so many people are messaging me because they're finally getting their sessions and they've got the confirmation that they need through their own sessions from their subconscious. This is real. The shift is real. Moving to a new planet is real. And so they had to have that confirmation themselves. Many people who have sessions still, it's not enough for them. Yeah, that was a session, that was an amazing, but I can't trust it because when I'm in my 3D, when I'm in my conscious mind, I can't understand how it's going to work. I need all the details for me to step into it. And that's a lot for people to manage and process. And sometimes it's so overwhelming because you're wanting proof that you can't actually get in this 3D. Proof in sessions, absolutely. Proof in your own sessions, absolutely. But constantly getting tangible proof while you're doing the dishes, that's the extra challenge. And so many people who are focusing and fixating on the details of what the new earth is going to be like, they're really taking themselves out of the current life that they're in. And many people I find who are trying to escape their daily duties by trying to meditate too much, the subconscious is saying, stop that now. You have lots of work to do while you're awake, and that is connecting and profoundly with people. Stop distracting yourselves with doing your meditations and disconnecting from people. Connect with people. Physically engage. Physically connect with people. And so we all know that it's easier to be in the safety of our own home and sending out best wishes using our free will and ear kissing the world through love bubbles. That is fantastic and that is really, really sweet. But there are people in our communities that we need to lend our energy to, and it's a physical exchange. It has to be a physical exchange. Energy is like that. Yes, there is lots of remote energy work and all that fantastic stuff, but sometimes just our souls and our eyes looking at someone, loving them, can mean so much. It can actually activate them. There's a whole lot of things that we do that we're not even consciously aware of. So be brave, my friends. It is all, wow, it is all good. Focus on today. Focus on this minute. Focus on this hour. How can we be of service to ourselves? And so also wanted to talk about some fantastic people who keep coming into my lives who I can deeply recognize where they're at because I've been on that same journey. I've even remarkably said to them, are we twins? Because it's the same like for likeness. And of course, I'm referring to what is typically, no surprise, second wave volunteers. It is incredible how their personal experience matches and mirrors my own. It's like, did we do all a group life contract together, guys? Because that sounds so familiar. And so what I was noticing and what some people are also noticing is that they've got a bad habit and they can't break it, which is self-trash talk. Let's just say it for that. So they're so used to being intuitive and reading people that they feel so bad because they feel like they're judging others for their other agendas. And so when you can read people really well and you know what their agenda is and where they're processing and how they're viewing the world, and when they're coming from a negative space because either of lack of inner work or because they've just got a different approach to the world, we feel bad and dirty often when we can read people having that, because they actually aren't physically doing anything that is proof apart from all of the energy and the auras and whatever you want to call it them. So they may be sitting there looking sweet as pie with a cup of tea and a cookie, and yet we can tell what their agenda is for us, and we can tell what their agenda is to other people because of their demeanors. But yet we feel so terrible that we're judging someone who's simply looking sweet as pie with a cup of tea and a cookie, that we feel bad on ourselves. And so we start shutting down their intuition because we feel dreadful and awful, and we don't understand what is wrong with us. Why would I view that person who is completely sweet as pie and everyone seems to love them, and yet there is something disconnecting me to wanting to trust them and to go with them and to follow them and blah, 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 blah. We've all done that, right? Well, I'm just speaking to the second wavers right now, potentially any other volunteers and other intuitive people. So moving forward. And so what was supposed to be our protection of navigating who we could trust and who was in alignment with truth and honor and integrity and all that stuff, instead of trusting that skill set, we actually confused ourselves with that skill set and started shutting it down because we were judging ourselves for it. And so it is a protection. It is a sense. It is a protection sense for us to instantly read people. But we go into self-doubt and to self-ridicule and to self-hatred because we feel that we are the bad people for having those agendas or for judging someone, especially when they're not doing anything yet. And then so we dismiss our intuition and we try to be to overlook that. And then what happens to truly remind us that our intuition was correct? They finally put down their cup of tea and they do certain things that we really can see very clearly then their true agenda and demeanor. And so because we still feel so bad that we won't judge them, even though it was correct judgment, we will still dismiss all of their bad behavior and continue on because we don't want to view the world through that. We don't want to really accept that people would be doing that. We sort of hope that they would suddenly grow a moral compass or have a healthier agenda or perspective or whatever. And so we always give people the benefit of the doubt, even though time and time and time again, people have proven and shown to us they don't change when they get rewards and when they get they're not made accountable for their choices and their behaviors, and they get away with it because no one wants to stand up and call someone out for their bad behavior because isn't that rude? And so we're creating these people who love to manipulate and get away with it and love to one of the classics is when you call them out for their bad behavior and then they twist it around and really project, how dare you read me accurately, I'm going to destroy you. And so we've all been there, my friends, right? So we try to shut down our senses with this because we don't want to fall into that density because it makes us feel yuck. And so, it is okay for us to remove ourselves from those people with much love. We can love them, appreciate them, but not let them get away with their bad behavior of manipulation and control, because ultimately we are dismissing what our really fine senses are. And so moving forward, when we've done this for so many years as children and dismissed our intuition because we want to see the good in the world, because that's who we truly are. We are the good in the world, and we see things with great possibilities and solutions and empowerment and growth and love and all that fantastic stuff. We keep wanting to vibe at our own natural frequency, which is a lot higher than those who are constantly holding on to density. And so You may have heard people will resonate with others who match the same frequency. And that is fantastic, because when you have truly like for like people, they get on like a house on fire. Is that the right saying? I'm not too sure. But anyway, you can feel the true integrity. You can feel the true empowerment of certain people when they are truly in alignment with you. And of course, we've also heard in sessions, those people who are in density will find these higher frequency beings and be drawn to them like a moth to a flame, because it's so attractive. They want that higher frequency. They want that bigger perspective. They want that for themselves. They don't actually want to do it for themselves. They refuse to actually do anything for themselves. They just want to absorb that person's energy, which is then we love to label them as energy vampires. And pardon me to all the real vampires out there who are not wanting to be associated with the energy vampires. Anyway, I'm sort of in one of those cheeky moods today, so I feel like I've mansplained that enough potentially. But just check yourself. If you have been shutting yourself down from your intuition because you can read people really well, and you feel like you've done enough inner work to not be reading them through your own baggage and fear and all that sort of stuff, if you've truly aligned yourself to you, then you can truly start trusting you, because you know you're not coming from a place of judgment or density. You're coming from a higher perspective. So for those people who are still belittling themselves because of their true profound connections to their higher selves and subconsciouses, and they have true alignment, and yet they still feel bad that they are seeing people for who they truly are with their demeanors, please can you stop judging yourself for being able to accurately read others? Thank you. That would be fantastic. So I know that they constantly are saying in sessions, love yourself, love yourselves, love yourselves. You're so loved. You're so protected. You're so not alone. And yet it breaks my heart almost when I see these true, profound gifts to humanity here for this profound experience. And they are just the worst horrible critics to themselves. It's unbelievable. And if I could go through my Zoom meetings and smack their bottoms with much love, I would, because my goodness, some people just want to focus on belittling themselves. And it just is, I know it's a protection mechanism. I know that they're trying to balance and justify what they can feel around their world, but they're putting all the world's responsibilities onto them. And so there's so much to say here. And, I know that those people who are still scared to empower themselves, still scared to love themselves, and still scared to trust themselves. Group hug, group hug. We can't be doing that to ourselves anymore. And if it needs to take you to imagine yourself as your new imaginary best friend who actually cares for yourself, looks after yourself, consider yourselves first. I know lots of mothers that put their children first and that they live through their children and yet have trash talk on themselves. Now, let's just see this. Would you allow people to talk about your children as you're talking about yourself? Quite possibly not. And so the guides are saying, you are our children. And they actually find it really heartbreaking if they had hearts. It's not a conversation for that, but you know what I mean. They love us so much, and when we're constantly belittling ourselves, limiting ourselves, blocking ourselves, distrusting ourselves, unloving ourselves, isolating ourselves, disempowering ourselves, it's like they're giving us all this amazing energy, all of this amazing frequency of love and healing and support and unity and family connections and all that fantastic stuff. And here we are denying it, blocking ourselves, and then starting to eat into ourselves. And there is a lot of diseases and a lot of issues that people love to have labels on themselves that are given to them so lovingly by the medical profession, which is actually truly self-hatred when you actually go down to the metaphysical perspective of it. Fascinating times, my friends, but please, when you hear them say in sessions, love yourselves, They're talking about you. You are so valuable to them. You are so significant to them. You are so important to them. You are so important to me. You are so important to humanity. You are here because of you being who you are, who you're capable of being when you have this veil of forgetfulness ripped off you. Be that now. Trust you are here now for a very significant purpose. And using your energy and focus to hate yourself, to belittle yourself, is not what they're wanting you to focus on. You've done that. You've mastered that. It is time to now grow from that. So I can feel some people wanting to hate themselves for hating themselves. Stop that. And so when you find you are in a little loop of self-negative trash talk, okay, yep, that was the old me. I can see I'm still in a routine with that. And so some of you are noticing that you had that really intensive routine and habit, and we're quitting that habit. And so when you start quitting the habit and before you make that new routine, you're still trying to dip into the old habit because that's your safety. That's the way that you were. That's right. That's the way you were. And so if you find yourself doing a little dance of self-trash talk, stop, acknowledge it, and then say some amazing things about yourself that you know and you believe. You're loved. You are special. You are a treasure. You're an honor. You're a gift. All of that. It's all freaking true. All of it. Without a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt. You are so important. My volunteers, my second wave volunteers, all of the volunteers. You know it. But we've had some times where our organ egos have been beaten down. And this is a time to really empower ourselves to remember who we are, remember why we are here. Epic, epic, epic. And so if you need to empower yourself, and you must start focusing on writing a list of all the things that you are good at, all the things that make you, you. You have profound capability of love. You have profound capability of compassion, understanding, consideration, integrity, fantastic morals, fantastic everything. So it's not a shameful thing to love self. It is a beautiful honor. It's a beautiful thing to be able to do, part of your service to self. It's not selfish at all. It actually is self-empowering. We must get out of this trash talk phase and start doing things to honor ourselves. I know so many people don't even feel worthy of just drinking water and loving it. How self-indulgent, they said to me. It's not self-indulgent, it's self-empowering. So please, my friends, take this time. It is serious. If you can't love yourself fully, how can you support others fully? You know you always want to be of service. You know you're here for something really important. And so embracing that, it truly is the doorway to massive perceptions, massive perspective, massive healing. And we all deserve healing. And we all deserve to be in our profound inner peace and neutral and balanced. And we can get there so easily when we just stop and have a look. If we have any bad habits, what is it? Have a look at it. Be brave. Unpack it. Love the fact that we've learned from it to be able to overcome it. Fantastic times. And I just wanted to say, for those who are interested, it was incredible. The convoy yesterday, I got to spend over, I think it was like 2 hours on the side of the road with my son and partner. And we just cheered and clapped and just honored all of those who were coming on the road to our capital. And it was just such an uplifting, exciting time to see all these people making a stand. It's truly extraordinary that they've literally packed up their lives and they're occupying streets in our parliament now. And it is incredible. It is so incredible, the feats that people just feel called. They don't even know why. And when we went down to the Parliament grounds and we circumferenced the whole space and area, my whole family, we took the girls with us as well. And I realized afterwards what energetically we were doing. I'm a little bit slow sometimes, the things that I get called to do, and then afterwards go, oh, that was cool. That's nice and significant. So anyway, we all went down, and the many people that we were talking to, they all had amazing things in common. They all thought that they were just going to go to the little journey, and they were just going to do a little trip to support some friends and be at a little mini rally a few nights ago somewhere else. And when they felt the energy of the rally, they knew they had to continue on. They knew this was a calling. And so they often don't have clothes. They just came for a day trip, and now it's 3 days in. And so there are so many extraordinary people donating food and water and their services and their times and their property and all sorts of things to be able to support these people to hold the line. Fantastic. It was so beautiful. The unity and the connections of people was fantastic, and it just was so uplifting. And regardless of the outcome, regardless of what it changes or doesn't change, these people are feeling like they are doing something towards helping this country and to stand up for those people who they know who can't attend. So they may be one person, but they're representing their own personal community back home. Oh, such a proud moment, and it was so fantastic and beautiful in the evening. And it was just, as you could imagine, just so uplifting, and just community just was profound. And the other thing that most people where I was talking to, because everyone was so chatty and friendly, one of the questions I kept feeling called to ask was, do you know anyone that has had a reaction to the inoculations? Just out of question, out of curiosity. And it was quite uncomfortable to hear the truth of how many people they know who have had exit points recently and who have had profound reactions. And they're there for them. It wasn't a convoy or a rally about anti-anything. It was about having open discussions, having more dialogue, more communications, more transparency, and more facts being open than just one narrative. And so it's incredible times. And as we know, even in Dolores Cannon books, there was a mention about the protests happening before the shift, which was going to give many people opportunities to stand up. And potentially they haven't had lifetimes where they were able to stand up. Often in lifetimes previously, standing up or speaking out would get you instantly killed. We're not in that society anymore. We're slightly evolved. Don't be afraid of dislikes, and don't be afraid of negative comments from people who haven't done enough of the inner work to be able to know the difference between dictatorships and disempowerment of people and control and manipulation. Okay, my friends, enough waffling from me today, but I truly hope that you start investing your energy in yourselves more and being able to honor yourselves more, because I fully believe in you. I fully trust that you know your teams are nudging you along with much love. And I hope that you can find their humor too, because when they are really candid with us, they make jokes about us and the way that we take our lives so seriously. And they are just delightful friends to have. Okay, I love you. Honor yourselves. I mean it this time.